Hello and welcome to the Migration Mapper demo series. My name is Jerod Merkle and I'm an assistant professor at the University of Wyoming and a research associate with the Wyoming Migration Initiative. In this video, I'm going to show you a little bit about the module 1 of Migration Mapper, some of the details and the cool bells and whistles that it has. So once you've imported your data, if you need some help with that, see the previous video. You should get to this screen that you see here. That means you've successfully imported your data and things are looking good. Now the goal of this app is really to help you troubleshoot and find problem data points and just get a broad overview of what your data look like. And so there's a number of things that you can do to get through your data. So let me just orient you to a little bit to this page. So again, on the upper left, you'll see the configuration parameters. Again, these are those parameters for your problem points and mortality information. And if you change these, it will have to go back and recalculate some information, and that will change what you have worked on in this app. So be careful here, and it's best to think about this before you get to this screen or before you do too much work on this screen. Once you've done work here, you can always export an updated shapefile. And what has happened so far with your data set is there's been 3 new columns that will be added, and those are problem points, mortality points, and a comments column. And so you'll see here in a little bit that you can change those values, but even with the automatic mortalities and problem point algorithms that Migration Mapper has, it's already added those 3 columns. And if you want to just export your shapefile with those 3 new columns added, you can do that here and you can move on and use other things. So the idea with that is if you wanted to just use Migration Mapper for troubleshooting your data, getting a broad overview with this, kind of graphical user interface, you can do that and then export your data with a little bit of more information in it. Okay, then if you want to jump to another module, that button is here, and then there's the Close App button behind my picture in the upper right. Okay, so what you'll see here in the upper left is we have all the animal IDs that we imported for this data set, and you can switch around to different animal IDs here. And we also have a previous animal and a next animal button, so you can bounce back and forth between that. You can also have the years that you see here. So you can either plot 1 year at a time, or you can actually just plot all years. And you know, this is an amazing system where you can actually flip between individuals and have all of the years of data in view. If you have really big individuals with many data points, multiple years, these have 2 years of data, you might get a bit of slowing here. But generally, you can look at all years in your data set. And again, all these points are blue. If there was a problem point, like a fast speed, it would be in magenta color. And if there was a mortality, it would be in yellow, so you can see it. You also have the opportunity to turn the base map to satellite imagery, or you get this kind of general kind of mix of topography and land ownership. Okay, so that's these buttons up here. Now I'm going to orient you on the right-hand side. There are actually, before we go to the right-hand side, let's go to the bottom. So this is going to give you some really brief information summary of this animal for all of these years. And it's going to give you a quick minimum convex polygon. And the idea here is to tell you quickly, are there some really big outliers in your data? And so if you do have those big outliers, you'll see that the minimum convex, the 100% minimum convex polygon will be much larger than the 99% one. So you can just quickly have a quick look and see, oh, I have some problem points that are far out. This is going to tell you the median fix rate for that entire amount of data. And this is going to give you how many points on average, excuse me, the total points per month that you have, and then the average points per day that you have. And this is just going to give you a little bit of an idea of where you have data, where you have missing data. Clearly, these animals have less data during the summer here. As you can see, starting in June, this goes down to less points per day, and then back starting sometime in September, the number of points goes back up again. This will also tell you the earliest observation was in 2011 in February 1st, and then the latest observation was April 1st, 2013. So anyway, that's just going to quickly orient you to these data, and you can also flip this to just 2011, and it will give you just the date range for your 2011, the average points for just that year, mean fixed rate, and then the MCPs for that year as well. So you can flip these back and forth and get a good idea quickly of what each animal has. And I think if I switch to the next animal, you'll see this animal has a much smaller MCP, but the dates and the fixed rates are all about the same. Okay, so now I want to orient you to the right-hand side, which are these graphs. And so this is just going to give you a little bit of an idea of how these animals are moving across the landscape. So we have three graphs. We have speed, fixed rate, and then a square displacement since January 1st. And so this is just going to give you an idea of particularly, is this animal migratory, or how does it move across the landscape? Is it nomadic? Is it a resident? The fixed rate is going to give you a little bit of information about fixed rate. And remember, down here, we can tell that there's less points taken in summer. And you can see that the fixed rate goes from a small number and at some point jumps up. It's at a lower fixed rate or a higher fixed rate in hours during the summer. Okay, so the next thing are the key things, what you can do. So when you are hovering over the dots here, it will actually darken a point on the map or zoom in on the map to the point that you just clicked on. And oh, this is interesting. Okay, so when you hover over this, it'll put a black dot on that dot. And so we know the value coming in, the fixed rate coming into that point and leaving that point were quite large. And so there was some missed fixes around that dot. But you can click on this dot, and what it's going to bring up, and I'll move myself here, what's going to bring up is the actual information for that exact dot. And so we know what animal it is, what date it is. There's some other information here that you can ignore. But one thing, the main thing you want to see is this a mortality or a problem? And do you have any comments? And so if you actually decided, yeah, this is a bad problem point, you can switch this to a yes. And now this point will be removed from your data set and say, too many missed fixes. I can't spell, but that doesn't matter. And so now you have identified this as a problem point. Now we can go to the previous point and see, okay, how does this one look? And you can look at the displacement, or no, fixed rate is 13 hours coming in this one too. If I go to the next point, that's back to the one we were on. Go to the next one, and this rate is also 13 hours. Oops. And notice that the color of that point is now magenta, suggesting that it is a problem point for here. So anyway, you can walk through your points and get a feel for where the animal moved coming in and out of these points quite nicely with this situation. Okay, we can close that. Now we know that that is a problem point. Another thing I see here is look at these really fast speeds. Let's click on some of those points. And so that moved us in here. And what we can see here is those fast speeds were happening during this migration movement between these two areas. Same here, I can click on that one. That's clearly a very fast speed between these two areas. And again, we can click on that point, get some information. It was going, this is 0.6 meters per second in speed. So it's kind of hard to interpret, but you could do the math if you really want to figure out what speed, but it is actually changed to kilometers per hour up here. Oh, shoot, so that value is in 0.6 kilometers per hour. Okay, so that is, oh, the last thing is, let's say you had some points that were on the edge of your data set. And you're like, okay, there's a bunch of points over here and we know they're not good. you can actually use this thing on this polygon tool in the upper left corner, click on that, and we can actually make a polygon. I'm going to add a few more just to show you how it works. So double click, so you can click around, then you double click, and that finishes a polygon. And now you have selected multiple points. You have made a selection of multiple points. You can batch call these all problem points or mortalities. And so we could just say, yes, these are all problem points, and say in helicopter before capture. And so you can identify those things. And now when we close this, those are all now pink. And if we click on one of them, I can find it. My cursor is being funny because I have it very large right now. Well, so you can click on that, and now this point is now identified as a problem in helicopter before capture. Same with the previous point, same with the previous one, that one as well. And now we're back to no problem points. And so this tool gives us a very nice way to actually go through these individuals and identify different kind of problem points. And then again, you can keep flipping, go to the next individual, go to the next individual, go to the next individual, and just get an idea. Look at this very resident animal living close to this kind of urban area. You can see that really clearly now. A lot of their displacement kind of doesn't look like a migratory animal. It's totally resident. Speeds are kind of bouncing around, although look at it does have a little bit of a higher speed during the springtime. And then you can see where the speeds, or excuse me, the fixed rate changes during the summer. Okay, that's it for app 1. Once you're done here, you'll click jump to another module, and we can click go to app 2, and you can move on. See you at the next video.